This case has been by far the most difficult to monitor of any case that I've ever monitored in any country.
We have the man who had the courage to reveal those war crimes is the one whose liberty is at stake, and that is not right.
I can't believe that this just took place in the middle of London, in what is supposedly a civilized institution.
Our children need their father. Julian needs his freedom. And our democracy needs a free press.
Hi, this is John McAvoy reporting from outside the Old Bailey in London for the Canary. Now, we've just seen the conclusion of the extradition hearing for Julian Assange, during which he may face up to 175 years in a US prison, charged under 17 counts of the Espionage Act, as well as 1 count to commit a computer crime.
This case has been by far the most difficult to monitor of any case that I've ever monitored in any country. There are a number of factors that have played into that, but really ultimately it's started with the judge refusing to recognise or accommodate the role of professional NGO observers as any different to the public. So from the start we were left to compete for extremely few spaces in the public gallery.
No NGO observers or members of professional journalistic organizations have been able to properly monitor this case, and the video conference line had a lot of technical issues as well. It tells me that the powerful and the people who are behind Julian Assange's prosecution and political persecution do not want this case to be discussed in the public sphere, and that is perhaps why they're making it so difficult to accurately cover this case and have access to this case.
What's really important as well is that everybody deserves the right to a fair hearing, and Julian does not have access to his legal team as much as he needs to. He's in solitary confinement, and he will be and maybe have access to his legal team perhaps for an hour every fortnight, and that's not acceptable. And he needs access to his legal support, and we need to know about war crimes abroad so that we can actually reflect on ourselves as a country to understand we are allowing abroad. That's what we've learned in the last 10 years.
The people who committed these war crimes, Tony Blair, George Bush, Jack Straw, they're all gone. Paul Wolfowitz, Donald Rumsfeld. We didn't even hear their names once inside this goddamn courtroom. You know, this might be the city of London, but it's the United States that's holding the gavel. They're the ones running this show, and this is disgusting. And everything that WikiLeaks did, everything that Julian Assange did, these were valiant acts of anti-imperialism. It's not just an attack on freedom of press. It's an attack on the very lives of people that are bombed every day, the people that are killed every day. We talk about them like they're ants or something. This is unacceptable.
The court heard that Spanish security firm UC Global, in cahoots with US intelligence officials, actually considered poisoning or kidnapping Julian Assange. In any normal case, this would be a massive revelation, perhaps enough to even throw the entire case out. However, this entire witness testimony was done within about an hour. Vanessa Baretza had nothing to say about it in the testimony, and the court simply moved on.
Essentially, you had these two statements talking about how the US intelligence services were contracting UC Global, the Spanish firm, to spy on Julian Assange, to violate the sovereignty of Ecuador, British sovereignty. I mean, Britain has a duty as a host country to ensure their safety, and moreover, I mean, risk Julian Assange's health. Contemplating at least to poison him, to kidnap him and make it look like an accident, right? So there's a real conspiracy to commit murder, and also to cover it up. And we have these statements read out as if they're nothing, and the judge glosses over them. Not a word, not a single word from her, and not a single word of protest from the prosecution. So these two explosive testimonies were read out, and then we move on to the next one as if nothing happened, as if we did not just hear in the Old Bailey, in the Central Criminal Court, about a conspiracy, an international conspiracy to murder the defendant. I mean, it's absurd. So that was really mind-boggling to witness that.
I've seen videos, I have listened to recordings, I have seen images, including of myself that were recorded without any authorization, secretly, and we have learned that was made for the Americans.
We keep talking about the conditions that Assange will be held in the US, but we need to actually explore about the conditions he's been held in here. The fact that in the first part and the second part of his hearing, he's behind a thick bulletproof glass. He can barely hear what's going on. When he explained in the first part of the hearing that he couldn't keep up to date and that he felt as much a part of this trial as an attendee at Wimbledon, the judge ignored that point. He's then held in a maximum security prison, considering the only crime he's actually committed in the UK is skipping bail. The idea that he'd be held alongside terrorists, and even the inmates within Belmarsh have protested about the way that Julian Assange was treated.
Julian Assange has been suffering terrible deprivation of liberty. He's been suffering conditions amounting to torture. His ordeal goes on, and all because he published the truth. There is no allegation in that courtroom that anything he published was a lie. Everything he published was true, and much of that truth revealed terrible crimes, war crimes and crimes against humanity, and lies and corruption by government. And not one of the people who committed those war crimes is on trial anywhere. Instead, we have the man who had the courage to reveal those war crimes is the one whose liberty is at stake, and that is not right.
Julian Assange's extradition hearing has served as a vehicle through which to extend and exacerbate his psychological torture by abuse of his fundamental human rights. And that abuse has been so significant that the International Bar Association Human Rights Institute has issued a statement saying that Julian Assange's treatment has been reminiscent of the Abu Ghraib prison scandal. So it's no surprise at all that the court heard that Julian Assange is suffering from severe depression and trauma, because all of this is a psychological recipe for severe depression and trauma. And these conditions are the same conditions that are created in psychological torture. And they're designed to break a person down, to interfere with their functioning, to interfere with their will to live. And they're also designed to send a message to those looking on. And in this case, that message is to journalists primarily. And the message is, this is what could happen to you if you tell the truth, if you really tell the truth about what goes on in the world.
From top to bottom, from start to finish, it's just one saga after the next, and I can't believe that this just took place in the middle of London, in what is supposedly a civilized institution.
Terrible crimes were committed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and terrible crimes were committed at Guantanamo Bay. The perpetrators of those crimes, they're not in prison, but Julian is. Julian is a publisher. Julian is also a son. He's a friend. He's my fiancé and a father. Our children need their father. Julian needs his freedom. And our democracy needs a free press.
So if we succeed in carrying upon our shoulders and using our strength to free Julian, it brings that freedom to us, and it prevents and it gives us the status and strength to resist the murderous crimes of a rogue state and its vassals. And from Julian, when I speak to him on the phone, he asks me to give thanks to the journalists and the supporters. So, from the heart.